I want to maybe shift gears into the platform that you've built and, in a way, the different products that you've released. Boltz 1, Boltz 2, and Boltz Gen, maybe starting with those three. At least in my sort of layman's understanding of it, Boltz 1 really seemed to be enabling understanding, fit between, a small molecule or antibody protein with a given protein, as you described. Boltz 2 really kind of zeroed in on affinity, so like how well and strongly those two fit. And then I think Boltz Gen was about I think the key word there was novelty, coming up with novel, binder proteins. So did I get that right at a high level, and what would you add to that description?
Yeah, so, in general, what really AlphaFold started in this field that, we have also seen in other fields of machine learning is this rise of this, what people now call foundation models. These are models, where, you train them for a particular task on large amounts of data, and they build a representation that is, becomes widely useful to do many things on that type of data. And this has been, pre-training of, large language models on next word prediction, similar as happened on images. And on, structure prediction has been this amazing kind of, task for proteins and biomolecules where, AlphaFold really showed that, all of a sudden, these large models could predict the structure of these proteins. And, people have studied, this model, for many years now, and have seen that, in predicting the structure, actually, AlphaFold is really learning a lot of different things about these proteins. For example, their flexibility. One of the very easy things that people notice very soon is that, if you looked at the things that, AlphaFold had more or less confidence on, that was very kind of, closely linked to how flexible that region was. And so if a flexible region, it moves a lot more, partially because it's harder to, understand it with X-ray crystallography, partially because it's more dynamic, the model has less confidence on. And then, as, we've built, kind of better and better models, and this was, a lot of the work that, the rest of the field has done, AlphaFold 3, and then, we also kind of did with Boltz 1, is, building better and better, structure prediction, foundation models. That, unlike AlphaFold 2, that was only trying to predict the structure of individual proteins, we're now able to predict, with a fair amount of accuracy, the structure also of interactions. So the way that, different proteins, small molecules interact with one another. Now, on top of that, structure prediction alone is not necessarily enough to get you a drug. I mean, it's an amazing thing. It's beautiful. The structures are beautiful, but at the end of the day, if you ask, a chemist, a drug developer, it's really a means to an end of, developing a drug. At the end of the day, when you have that target product profile, you're not really thinking about, what structure it should have. You're really thinking about what's the effect that you want to have. And so, one of the things that we showed with Boltz 2 is that you can take these foundation models and then learn on top of that, some critical properties like, affinity prediction. Affinity is basically how strongly like a protein and, for example, a small molecule would fit together. And, when you think about kind of that target product profile, that's really kind of one of the key things that, you want to have. You want to have, for example, your molecules sticking with a particular strength to your proteins, sticking with a smaller amount of strength to, the proteins that you don't want to hit. And so, so with Boltz 2, we were able, and, for the first time with that level of accuracy to predict, kind of these properties that, is related to the structure, but it's really kind of this more downstream property. And then, so that's, we have the foundation models, we have these predictive models, and beyond affinity, we've now, expanded it to many other properties that, people care about. But then there is still the question of, how are you going to explore, the space of all possible proteins? Now we have a way of, testing something. Let's say that, I'm going to give you a protein and a small molecule. I can now try to predict the affinity. But then, how am I going to search, between the universe of all possible molecules, universe of all possible proteins for the right one? And so that's where you need this third piece, which are these generative models. And so these generative models are basically ways that we can efficiently sample the space of possible proteins, space of possible molecules. And so BoltzGen is generative models for proteins. And so what we did with BoltzGen is, first of all, train these generative models, and then put it together with these foundation models and now predictive models, and put it in a workflow engine that can now sort of like generate novel proteins that you can sort of like generate them with the model, test their structure, test their properties, and you can sort of then validate the best candidates in the lab. And we were kind of able to show that you can actually get some nice hits, some nice proteins.